grinding every day. Long hours, no backup, no accountability. That ends now. The Empower Solopreneur Mastermind gives you one simple advantage: a weekly power session that turns isolation into domination. Every Friday morning on Zoom, you'll get real coaching and real feedback to make real moves. Join a group of driven professionals in a program designed for solopreneurs and people working at home. Stop getting stuck. Start scaling. Seats are limited. Lock in yours today at modernobserver.com/empower-mastermind.
A massive blizzard, global instability, Biden's executive orders canceled, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. Record-breaking snowfall in the Midwest and Great Lakes over the weekend led to widespread travel disruptions after Thanksgiving, including nearly 8,000 delayed flights and another 670 cancellations. Chicago recorded its highest ever November snowfall, with over 8 inches falling through Sunday morning. Additional severe weather is expected today as the system moves eastward, where slippery road conditions are likely to continue hampering drivers. Airlines also reported that a mandatory software update caused additional delays for Airbus A320 flights worldwide. Most of the updates were completed yesterday. A new analysis projects that the average tax refund could rise by about $1,000 next year, thanks to retroactive cuts in a sweeping tax law signed by President Trump in July. The average refund is expected to hit $4,151, up from $3,151 in the 2025 filing season. The law eliminates taxes on some overtime and tipped income and raises the SALT deduction cap from $10,000 to $40,000, driving what could be one of the largest refund seasons on record. Most benefits will go to middle-income earners. President Trump said on Friday that he will cancel every executive order former President Biden signed with an autopen instead of his own signature, claiming 92% of those orders are invalid. Trump alleged on Truth Social that Biden's staff illegally operated the autopen, a mechanical device that reproduces signatures without presidential approval, warning Biden could face perjury charges if he asserts he was involved. Autopenned signatures historically have held full legal force when aides act under a president's directive and have been used by chief executives for decades. Biden signed 162 executive orders during his presidency, and while it's unclear how many used an autopen, presidents commonly revoke their predecessors' directives. A Russian drone strike killed at least 3 people in a missile and drone attack on Ukraine's capital early Saturday morning, while wounding at least 29 others, according to the Associated Press. 2 individuals were killed in Kyiv, while the other death occurred in the broader region, the Kyiv City Military Administration announced. The attack comes amid diplomatic talks with leaders from Moscow and Kyiv and support from the United States for ending the more than 3-year war in Eastern Europe. Steve Witkoff, special envoy to President Trump, is headed to Russia today to meet with President Vladimir Putin. Yesterday, a Ukrainian delegation met with Witkoff, Jared Whitner, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Florida to continue discussing terms to end the war. Both the Ukrainian and U.S. sides called the meeting productive, though few details were disclosed. It was the first gathering without Andriy Yermak, Ukrainian President Zelensky's former chief of staff, who was instrumental in softening a draft proposal circulated by the Trump administration that was seen by the international community as heavily favoring Russia. Yermak resigned on Friday, the same day his home was raided amid a $100 million embezzlement scandal rocking Zelensky's inner circle. Yermak's quick departure was intended to keep the focus on negotiations without risking the U.S. extracting heavy demands from Ukraine in light of the revelation. President Trump delivered a stern ultimatum to Nicolás Maduro to leave Venezuela immediately before announcing the country's airspace should be closed, according to a report. Per the Miami Herald, Washington's warning was delivered in a phone call with Caracas and offered guaranteed evacuation for Maduro, his wife, and their son, but only if the dictator agreed to resign on the spot. The conversation stalled, U.S. officials said, and within hours, Washington escalated dramatically. The ensuing impasse, a source told the outlet, was over Maduro asking for global amnesty for any crimes he and his group had committed, and that was rejected. The number of U.S. airstrikes against jihadi terrorists in Somalia has increased more than tenfold under the Trump administration so far this year, compared to missions carried out under President Biden in 2024. U.S. Africa Command confirmed to Fox News Digital on Friday that it conducted 10 airstrikes in 2024, and that so far this year it has carried out more than 100 airstrikes in Somalia. In the latest military action Tuesday, AFRICOM personnel were involved in an airstrike and reportedly a gun battle lasting up to 4 hours with ISIS Somalia jihadists in the north of this African country. The operation was conducted, AFRICOM said in a media statement, in coordination with the federal government of Somalia. The Afghani national accused of shooting 2 National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. last week was likely radicalized after he came to the U.S., Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem revealed. Noem also vowed that the Trump administration will carry out mass deportations of immigrants from third world countries in response to the shooting. She added the asylum process will only be reopened after officials clear up the backlog of cases. Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, 20, died from her injuries on Thursday, and Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, 24, remains hospitalized with critical injuries from the attack. A top FDA regulator called for tighter government vaccine oversight, including stricter guidelines for the annual flu shot and new vaccines, after an internal agency review linked COVID-19 vaccines to the deaths of 10 children. The findings, which were announced in an internal FDA memo and haven't been published in a medical journal, signal another likely shakeup in vaccine policy. That's the Raw Naked Truth for December 1st, 2025. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.